Once upon a time, there was a planet. Unremarkable, perhaps, in every way, except for its remoteness and abilities to sustain life as we know it. A most fortunate aspect for those who would otherwise, unfortunately, call this place home for a time. The engines on the ship malfunctioned, and the ship itself began to plummet with astonishing speed into the mountains. 3 fortunate survivors awakened in time, although it became evident they were not who the computer had registered them as. Like this person, for instance. He was a doctor of no small competence, but in his youth, he was a voracious learner, never satisfied. His proclivity to pursue knowledge led him to its most destructive ends. And in his adulthood, he developed into nothing short of a local kingpin. He did not prefer the direct approach, necessarily. Indeed, he was a man of 2 passions, predominantly. Practice of medicine and the pursuit of research. He was a psychopath of no small severity, but an optimistic one. No, perfectly sanguine. In every way. Driven by material pursuits, he possessed exceptionally fine hair and a face that bespoke proper breeding. This woman was not necessarily a woman at all. Although she had the appearance of such, she was an android, manufactured for the purposes of making the universe a better place. Forever endowed with the appearance of a young woman, she was much older than she seemed, having spent the majority of her life in storage. She was finally stolen by space pirates, and when they themselves were destroyed, she was put to this ship. To the dismay of certain other crew members, she had a peculiar way of doing her hair. It was, she said, for the betterment of her neural sensors, so that they could access the sun and electrical outlets. What she failed to realize was that it was not common for a proper woman to have such neural sensors. What she was most interested in was learning to care for other living creatures. Although she was exceptionally good at construction and the manufacturing of tools, and she could cook as well as perhaps one might expect or require, but her pursuit of this humanity she sought developed for her a keen sort of neurosis. She was certainly neurotic. She was very, very neurotic. and in an attempt to identify with other women, took for herself the name Jane, finding it plain and unintimidating, much unlike her hair. Finally, there was this man, John Marcus, a sergeant in the Marines, fighting ever since he was a child, set about on all sides by death. But fortunately for him, none of it was his. John knew one thing, and one thing well: fighting. Or so he would tell. But he was possessed of a singular obsession with growing small plants. Indeed, he won many an award in a local bonsai growing contest after the competitors had disappeared under suspicious circumstances. His prodigious size made him slow of hand and foot, it was true, but he was possessed of a keen steadfastness that preserved him where lesser men would break. These three, though they knew each other not, would become their best friends and worst enemies. With little time to reach the escape pods, under the hail of noise the warning klaxons provided, they could grab but a few things on their way out. John grabbed his service rifle and a cold beer. Doctor grabbed his medicine and, because he was a prudent man, some survival food. Jane reached deep down inside of her warm-hearted cortex and grabbed what any self-respecting, compassionate human being would grab. A puppy. And then she grabbed another. And then a kitty.